right, well, if you're turning in, you're probably a Saints fan, and you probably, well, it might be the morning, might be the evening, either way. We're looking at the first selection of the 2025 draft, and with the ninth overall pick in the 2025 draft, the Saints take. It's an offensive lineman for the first time in, oh, right, a year. They took a left tackle for the first time in a year. Um, well, technically, the guy they took last year was right tackle, who then they moved to left tackle, and then this year they took a left tackle, who they'll move to right tackle, or maybe they'll take the left tackle and they'll keep him at left tackle, so they'll take the left tackle, they move to right tackle, move him back to left tackle, or maybe they'll take the left tackle and they'll move him to left guard, or the fuck are wrong with these idiots? Anyway, here's the thing. Um, there's multiple ways to look at the draft pick. So there's the analytical mind of let's look just at the player. Kelvin Banks is 3 year starter, uh, basically 21 years old, really good athlete. Played at Texas, so played a really high level of competition for the most part. Played really, really well. Like everybody has bad games. I know, and I've done it too. Had a really bad game against Georgia. I forget who the player is, but there was a cornerback out of Alabama a few years ago. Everybody was like, "Oh my God, why would you draft him?" And by everybody, I mean like Saints fans, especially LSU fans on Twitter, because he got destroyed by Chase and Justin Jefferson. Turns out he's actually a really good corner. He just got destroyed by Chase and Justin Jefferson because of fucking Chase and Justin Jefferson. Um, Georgia defense was ridiculous, and also his quarterback held onto the ball for 9 million years and was terrible under pressure and actually caused some of his own sacks because he has Derek Carr syndrome. And yeah, there was a lot of that too. So look, one game doesn't decide a player. I don't have enough of an understanding of offensive line play to be like definitive opinion right now, right this second. A lot of very smart people believe that he was a very, very, very talented young man who was top 15-ish range, so not overdrafted in any way, shape, or form. Um, that's fine. It's extremely frustrating to see the Saints having to take first round offensive linemen year after year after year because they can't properly scout players and they can't properly develop players and they can't properly retain players and they can't properly coach players because they are a joke of an organization. And Mickey Loomis and Jeff Ireland both somehow managed to retain jobs despite overwhelming evidence that they shouldn't have them. But that's not Kelvin Banks' fault. Kelvin Banks is a very talented player. Kelvin Banks probably was worth a top 15 pick. Kelvin Banks was picked in the top 15 in a vacuum. Absolutely not a damn thing wrong with the pick. Here is the not in a vacuum part of this, and this is really going to be what is going to decide how this pick is going to be viewed in the long run. The Saints chose to draft Kelvin Banks over taking quarterback. Now, Jackson Dart was taken late first round. Shedeur Sanders wasn't taken in the first round. And they take it over Joan Campbell. Or sorry, Jalen Walker. I don't know where I pick up that last name. My brain is fried. It's like midnight. Whatever. Um, Jalen Walker is the player, really, that was there at 9, who was a top 10 player, where you go, that is an instant impact player on the defensive side of the ball. The Saints could have and probably should have drafted. If he ends up being a stud, especially for your division rival Falcons, um, that's the guy where you're going to look and go, could have had the impact player on the other side of the ball, probably should have taken that guy. The other player that's going to get looked at is Loveland, the tight end that was drafted. A dynamic, impactful, playmaking offensive weapon that can be not only a chain mover and play extender, but also a X factor and centerpiece for an offense. Something this offense doesn't have. A roster that is largely devoid of talent and entirely devoid of playmakers on both sides of the ball for the most part. You chose to take an offensive lineman over playmakers. Now, again, in a vacuum, it's a perfectly fine pick. In order for that to work out, you need two things to happen. Number one, he needs to be a good player. He doesn't have to be a perennial All-Pro. He doesn't have to be Teron Armstead. He doesn't even have to quite be Ryan Ramczyk. But he needs to be somewhere around that ballpark. He has to be better than Andrus Peat was. I understand Pete ended up being a guard, not a tackle, but he needs to be better as a tackle or guard than Pete was as a player. Pete was taken, I think, at 13. He was taken at 9. Like, it's around the same ballpark. Like, you need a better player than that, flat out. Number one. He must be better than that level, or it is a bad pick. Like, you failed the assessment. You have failed the assignment. You screwed up. Again. The other part is, you have added additional pressure, because the thing with high draft picks is, especially at premium positions, like playmaking positions, you're getting players who have a higher chance of hitting. Higher floor players. Typically, especially offensive linemen, you find linemen in the middle rounds of the draft more often who hit more often. Doesn't mean you can't find them, obviously, in the higher rounds, but typically it is more common to find them in the middle rounds than some other positions. Doesn't mean you can't do it, doesn't mean it doesn't work. Clearly, the Saints haven't been able to do it. They've been constantly drafting offensive linemen in the top rounds and not drafting them in the middle rounds, and they haven't been able to find them in either. So let's hope this one works out. But they now, on a roster devoid of playmakers and with massive holes of talent across the board, need to hit, especially on day two. They've got 2 third-round picks and 2 fourth-round picks. They need to hit on these picks. Like, that's the reality. You need to get really 3 contributors out of those 4 picks. Ideally, I mean, obviously you want 4, but like, you need 3 contributors this year. You need 3 contributors, and ideally you need 2 immediate impact players. Guys who make a difference on the team, not just foundational players. Like, don't get me wrong, offensive linemen make a difference on the team, but that's a foundational piece. That's infrastructure. Infrastructure matters. You need roads. You can't run businesses without infrastructure. Anyone who tells you otherwise is stupid and uneducated. Which probably is because you had poor infrastructure, because that's how you get stupid and uneducated. Funny how that works. But, yeah, it's not a sexy pick. It's not a fun pick. He could be a hell of a player. Again, he's very talented. Wasn't overdrafted. Not an issue in a vacuum. But the Saints had put themselves in a position. You chose infrastructure. You chose foundation over impact, over playmaking. You have no playmaking on your roster. You now are in a position where you need to land those players in the middle of this draft. We'll see if they do it. If they do it, it becomes a very good draft. You go get Travion Henderson at 40, or Giddens at 40, or look, if he drops there, you get Shador, who I'm really high on. Maybe they're not. We'll see at 40, or Milrow at 40, or like not Shuck. Like, he sucks. I'm sorry. He's a terrible player. If they take Shuck at 40, like, this is a bad draft class, period, the end. I'm going to shit on it the whole offseason. I'm going to shit it all season. I'm going to shit on it until... unless the player wins a playoff game, I'll admit I'm wrong, and until then I'm going to shit on it because he sucks. Um, but, like, other than that, like, you go land some playmakers, go get some impact players, and it's a different conversation. But until then, like, That's where I'm at with Kelvin Banks. Like, good player, nothing wrong with the player, plenty of talent, got a real chance to have a really positive impact for the team. But the position you're now in is, once again, we have drafted offensive line. Again drafted offensive line. Again, essentially have treaded water as an organization. You spent a premium asset to not get better. You did not get better with this pick. If Kelvin Banks comes in and he is a Pro Bowl left tackle, and you move Fuaga to right tackle, and Fuaga is just as good at right tackle as he was at left tackle last year, you are marginally better than you were last year on the offensive line. Because guard still sucks, center's really good, and your tackles are really good. But guard still sucks. Guard sucked last year. Guard was the biggest problem last year. Left tackle was really good. Right tackle was kind of okay, except for 2 games where it was really, really bad. And guard was a disaster. So you'll be good at tackle and a disaster at guard, and center will be great. Your offensive line will still not be dominant. You will still have problems, and your best asset, where you could have gotten the most impactful players, will be gone, and your defense will still be old, slow, and bad. Where you could have had an impact player, and your offense will still be old, slow, and like outside of Olave, unimpactful and bad. Because news alert, John Johnson's not making plays. John Johnson's not moving the chains. Kellen Moore can scheme him open all day. He's not going to magically learn how to catch the ball consistently. That's the position they're in. That's why people are mad. That's why people are frustrated. It's not because Kelvin Banks isn't a good player or a good prospect. Some people are mad because he got his booty hole torn open by Georgia. Georgia was a really good defense. And some of those sacks and some of those bad plays were because his quarterback is, I think, not very good. It happens. But perfectly fine prospect. I think probably going to be a pretty good player. Really talented young kid. I think he's going to be good. But it's not a sexy pick, and it doesn't bring a lot of hope because of the situation the organization is, and because with the data we have now, as of this pick, the organizational philosophy is we are smarter than everybody else. And we're going to spew superlatives, and we're going to say cliches, and we're going to say BS, and we're going to use our bought and paid for local mouthpieces to say a bunch of garbage that anyone with a brain can tell you is largely garbage. And we're just going to hope that the really passionate local fans buy it. And, well, so far, for the most part, we have bought it. You know? As long as we keep buying it, they're going to keep selling it. But look, I wish the kid the best. I hope he crushes it. I hope he's a perennial All-Pro. Um, I saw someone nickname him Kevlar. I think that'd be a dope ass nickname for a left tackle. More thoughts on him later to come, but we got to see what the rest of this draft looks like before we really start forming opinions. Sure as shit, not a bad pick, but it's really hard to call it a great pick without knowing more. And in the context of the Saints roster, it's really hard to call it a great pick at all where you didn't get better. You, at best, treaded water. You filled a hole that isn't there yet because you anticipate it becoming a hole later, and it's only a hole because you drafted poorly in the past. At the same spot. Again. And again. And again. And it's the same guys making the picks. Are we sure they got this one right? I actually do think this kid has a pretty good chance of working out, but still, like, are we sure Mickey and Jeff should be making these picks? Like, these guys have like pretty good track record of being ass. But we'll see. Again, hope Kevin Banks crushes it, and more to come tomorrow or later today, depending on when you're watching this. Who dat?